Today, we bring good news for Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency market. A pattern is forming, which is giving me quite a bit of hope, a lot of faith that very soon we will break through this all-time high zone. What pattern are we talking about? Right now, we are looking at Bitcoin on the daily chart, as you can see here on the screen, and I want you to notice something very clear. Since May 8th, we saw a strong rise in Bitcoin, once again reaching the all-time high zone. In this area here, at the all-time highs, we've already been for almost 28 days. 28 days, which is basically a month, right, so to speak. Here, a clear consolidation pattern is forming. On one hand, at the top of the channel that is in that resistance area, and on the other hand, Bitcoin is showing strength, unlike previous times when it reached the all-time high zone, where it touched it and bounced back, but didn't really stay in that area because there wasn't enough strength. It was an area where, when you got there were a lot of sell orders and the price would drop back down. However, now we can see that we've already spent 28 days in that all-time high zone, and there really isn't any selling pressure. On the contrary, the price is holding in that area, and we've even seen institutions buying large amounts of Bitcoin there. We've seen MicroStrategy buy Bitcoin with their latest purchases at $106,000. We've also seen ETFs like BlackRock's buying large amounts of Bitcoin in that all-time high zone. That is to say, from a technical standpoint, we're really seeing a strong resistance for Bitcoin in that area, which for now doesn't seem like it wants to leave it, doesn't want to pull back. On the contrary, it seems to want to keep building strength to break through. And on the other hand, fundamentally, we're seeing how institutions continue to buy large amounts of Bitcoin at all-time high levels, which is illogical, isn't it? In other words, for an institution, for an investment fund, for a bank, for a government, buying an asset at all-time highs, an asset you think could go to hell or drop much further, would make no sense at all. However, if we see institutions buying in this area, it means they really expect more from Bitcoin. And what is that price we expect for Bitcoin? I'm going to share a bit of my own analysis with you here. On a technical level, right now, as soon as we break through the all-time high zone, which we could very well break in the coming months so far, we've had a month of accumulation. That is, these 28 days accumulating in that area, and we could easily keep accumulating for another month, maybe 2 more months, making it a total of 3 months consolidating. In other words, practically all of May, June, and July. It could very well be that this takes some time. In other words, it's not going to be immediate. That is, this isn't going to break tomorrow and suddenly take us to new all-time highs. Or maybe it will. I mean, we don't know. It could be something that takes anywhere from a week to 3 months easily. This doesn't mean it's going to happen overnight, nor does it mean it will take until next year. In other words, this should happen in the coming months, considering that we're in 2025, a bull run year, a bullish cycle, and it's expected that the highs of this cycle will occur in the last quarter of this year, that is between October, November, and December, with the market usually reaching its highest peaks in November. So for now, we can see clear strength in Bitcoin at this area of all-time highs that we have up here on the screen, which shows us how eager it is to go higher. What is the next target? The next target, once we break through this all-time high area at $112,000, which is the highest it has reached, would be to quickly move to the area between $118,000 and $120,000. There is a resistance zone there, which we would watch closely. We would test it, see if it's difficult to break through. If it touches it and then pulls back sharply, we would observe how it reacts upon reaching that area. But once Bitcoin is able to surpass the $118,000, $120,000 zone, what is the next target? The next target then moves up to $150,000, and after the $150,000, the next is $180,000. But between $120,000 and $150,000, that $30,000 range, which for many might seem crazy, Bitcoin could possibly cover it faster than we expect. And regarding timing, what can we expect? Regarding timing, as you may recall, I mentioned to you a few weeks ago that the monthly inflation figure turned negative once again on April 10th, as we can see here. And usually when a negative monthly inflation figure comes out for the dollar, 3 months later or within a 3-month period after that, there tends to be a fairly strong upward movement in the market. So a month has already passed on May 13th. It was 1 month. Now on June 11th, it will be 2 months. And in July, around mid-July, it will be 3 months. That is to say, possibly, if the pattern continues to hold, then starting from the second half of July, we could begin to see a strong movement for Bitcoin. This will also coincide with the 2017 cycle. In the 2017 cycle, I mentioned this to you many times, right? Normally in the summer, which for those of you who aren't from Spain or this area, we're talking about June, July, August, more or less it tends to be quite boring for the market. That is, the market doesn't usually have big movements. However, the 2017 cycle had a particular feature, which was that on August 2, 2017, Bitcoin Cash emerged, the hard fork of Bitcoin where Bitcoin split, with the Bitcoin we know today going one way and Bitcoin Cash, which we also know going the other. As soon as the hard fork happened, on August 20th, if I remember correctly, the next day Bitcoin started to rise non-stop, to rise sharply without stopping. And it went straight up through all of August, September, October, November, reaching the area of all-time highs in that cycle, which hit $20,000. Possibly, we could see something similar since there are several factors that are coinciding around those dates, right? We also have to keep in mind that around those dates, we have the Fed meeting on July 30th. That is July 30th, the Fed meeting, in which, well, it's possible that interest rates will remain unchanged, but maybe, I don't know, Powell's words might already hint that at the next meeting, they will lower interest rates, which would be normal, because I also mentioned to you that Jerome Powell has said on multiple occasions that this year, 2025, he expects to lower the interest rate 3 more times. So if they don't lower them, if they don't lower interest rates on July 30th, then we only have 3 Fed meetings left. We'll have the meetings on September 17th, October 29th, and December 10th. In other words, clearly from the July 30th meeting onward, if they don't lower interest rates, then in the upcoming meetings, there will be at least 3 interest rate cuts of at least 25 basis points each. So everything is lining up in terms of timing, in terms of dates for that period of time, right? That is by midsummer for the market to start rising and then go straight into a free climb, right? Without stopping until the area of the last quarter of the year, which would be, as you know, October, November, and December, when usually the all-time high is typically reached in the month of November. It's true that in some cycles we've seen it happen in December, but possibly, well, November will be the key month when we'll have to consider and say, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to sell. It's also true that in this cycle, there's something important to keep in mind: altcoins. Now we'll move to this topic. Altcoins are dead, and in reality, it's simply that Bitcoin will play the leading role and altcoins will leave us in the gutter. That's something we need to consider, and we're going to talk about it today. What's happening with altcoins? Unlike other cycles, usually in a bull run year, there are 2 strong surges. A first surge, a correction, then a second surge, and then the crypto winter begins. This time, we have experienced the first surge in the crypto market. We've seen it clearly. We've seen Bitcoin go from $15,000 practically to $112,000. In other words, Bitcoin has multiplied tremendously in a strong rally during this period. Obviously, this has mainly been driven by several factors. Among them are the spot Bitcoin ETFs, which are constantly opening the door to institutional money every day. And on the other hand, countries like the United States, where since Donald Trump won, he has said that the country will be pro-crypto, that he will support them. They have changed the president of the SEC. They have replaced him and put in a more pro-crypto president. And this president is greatly favoring the development of projects related to cryptocurrencies, right? All of this is opening the doors for Bitcoin, making it much easier for it to keep growing. But however, the rest of the altcoins are not. In fact, even though Bitcoin has reached new all-time highs, practically doubling the previous cycle's all-time high, the altcoins have not. The altcoins are in the dumps. Ethereum hasn't even reached this all-time high from the previous cycle, not even close. It has only reached $4,000 when its all-time high is almost $5,000. These altcoins are completely dead. Cardano is completely dead. We can see here, for example, that Solana is the only one that reached the previous cycle's all-time high. Polygon is dead. Ripple, after what happened with the SEC, did recover quite a bit, but still hasn't shown its true potential. Algorand is also pretty much dead. If we zoom out on the chart, Rose as well is completely dead. Avalanche too is completely dead. And well, practically most cryptocurrencies are currently on their last legs. They're basically in the gutter right now. And everything depends on Ethereum. But Ethereum is also following a pattern, which I really like a lot. And possibly this pattern could be the one that marks the beginning of the first alt season of this cycle. What pattern are we talking about? We're talking about this pattern right here. Take a look at this green line, which, as I've told you many times, is the 200 period moving average. And I want you to see how, since practically May 9th, Ethereum has been constantly bumping up against the 200 period moving average, with this moving average acting as a strong resistance. We can see it very clearly here. In other words, it's absolutely clear how it touches the 200 period moving average, pulls back, touches it again, pulls back, touches it again, pulls back, touches it again. And right now it's there trying to break through it at all costs. It's trying there to touch, but it's not pulling back, which suggests to us that Ethereum is consolidating in that area and gathering strength to break through the 200 period moving average, which this 200 period moving average is very close to this zone around $2,900, which was previously an area that acted as support, but right now, well, it should act as resistance. But since it's so close to the 200 period moving average, the strength that Ethereum might be gathering to break through it, which is currently at $2,700, from $2,700 to $2,900, there's practically no movement. There's not much difference. So as soon as Ethereum breaks the 200 period moving average, that same momentum should give it enough strength to break through the 2,900 level and re-enter this range between $2,900 and $4,000. You already know what I've told you many times, right? What happens when Ethereum enters this area here, right? This area between $2,900 and $4,000, which it already did once, did a second time, and will possibly do a third time. When Ethereum enters this zone, the altcoins wake up. We can see then coins like Cardano, which will most likely go to the area between $1.10 and $1.30. That zone which it already reached when Ethereum hit the area between $2,900 and $4,000. We will see Polkadot reach then that area close to $12 again, which, well, is more of the same. Polkadot also did the same thing the first time Ethereum entered this zone. We can see it clearly. I mean, it looks very easy. The first zone where Ethereum reached those prices, we look at Polkadot. We see Polkadot then reach that area near $12. Let's go to Cardano. We see Cardano then reach that area of $1.20, $1.30. We can go, I don't know, to any other one you want, to Avalanche. We see here Avalanche reaching this area here around $50-something. Ethereum, the second time, it reaches this zone between $2,900 and $4,000. We go to Cardano. We see again that Cardano reached this area once more. We go to Polkadot. We see again that Polkadot reached this area again, just like the previous time. We go to Avalanche and see that Avalanche once again reached this area, just like the previous time. This time, what do we expect? We expect, obviously, the same thing, that Ethereum breaks through the 200 period moving average between $2,900 and $4,000. And when it is in this zone, we start to see the altcoins take off again towards those areas they already reached when Ethereum was within those price ranges. We're not saying that this is the alt season. No, we're talking about a strategic move that can be taken advantage of. How can you take advantage of it? It's very simple, right? That is, just like we took advantage of the other occasions, as you've seen here on the channel, this time it's more of the same. In other words, we're talking about, for example, opening a long position on Polkadot right now, which is at $4. If we expect it to go back up to $12, or maybe not even 12, let's say $10, at $10, we're talking about a 150% gain on 150% in spot, which in futures, if we open a long with 10 times leverage, which is what we usually do, we're talking about multiplying your investment by 15. In other words, a trade that multiplies your investment by 15. With good hedging, we're talking about the fact that for you to get liquidated, if, for example, you use a hedge, like ours, it would basically have to drop to $2 for us to get liquidated. In other words, Polkadot would have to go down to $2 for us to get liquidated. But if it goes up to $10, we're going to multiply our investment by 15. So right now we see opportunities. What opportunity do we see? The opportunity to open leverage longs at 10 times leverage on different altcoins to take advantage of them. And what is the signal? The signal is Ethereum. As soon as Ethereum breaks the 200 period moving average, which is this green line here, or roughly so you get an idea, as soon as Ethereum breaks through the 2,700 to 2,900 range, that area between 2,700 and 2,900, as soon as it breaks through, for me, that will be a signal that the price is going to shoot up at least to the 4.0 area, where we've already seen it act as resistance on multiple occasions. And this time it should do exactly the same, act as resistance, with the hope that this time what we expect is that once it touches that resistance, it will consolidate, in other words, that it won't just touch it and bounce back down again, but rather that it will consolidate there. Just like Bitcoin is doing right now with its range of highs. So that finally Ethereum can break through that 4.0 zone and go on to attack its all-time high of 5.0 again. As for hope, on a fundamental level for Ethereum, I can tell you that absolutely all the bets from all the institutions that are stating what price they believe Ethereum will reach in 2025, all of them are above 5.0. Any investment fund, any ETF, from BlackRock to JP, Morgan, to any super famous analyst you might see or follow who is connected to the crypto world, Gabby Wood, anyone, all their bets are between $5,000 and $10,000. In other words, the most conservative estimate is $5,000, which is the all-time high from the previous cycle. And for those betting higher, well, there are quite a few bets that go well above $10,000, but more or less everyone agrees on bets that are between $5,000 and $10,000. Some say 5,000, 6,000, 7,000, 8,000, 9,000, 10,000. There are others who predict much higher, but I'm going to stick to that range between 5,000 and 10,000, which is where most analysts, investors, banks, investment funds, governments, and economists are betting on for Ethereum. If Ethereum reaches those prices, for us that translates into total success. First of all our altcoins, including obviously Ethereum as the main one, will give us a good profit in spot. All our long positions will start to bear fruit. The challenge of turning $10,000 into $1 million will possibly reach its goal at those prices. That is, as soon as Ethereum gives the signal and approaches that all-time high zone. In other words, it's possible that when that happens, we'll be quite far along in the challenge, with the challenge possibly sitting between $500,000 and $1 million in profit. And obviously, that's where the big advantage lies, right? And that's where the great opportunity of this cycle is at this very moment for those of you who haven't made a fortune yet, because obviously you can make money every day with Bitcoin by trading like we do, whether it's daily trading or swing trading, which are trades that can last days or weeks, or long-term trading, which we also do. But to achieve big multipliers, to multiply by 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 90, or 100, what's going to give us those kinds of returns are the altcoins. The opportunity to reach those numbers right now lies with the altcoins. Obviously, I want to make this clear. I've said it many times. Once we've seen the alt season, the first alt season, you know that I, since this bull run started, I've mentioned that there are always going to be two alt seasons, one in the first movement and another in the second. But I always told you that after the first alt season, I would already exit the altcoins. So far, there hasn't been a first alt season or a second one, obviously, and possibly there might only be one alt season in this cycle, given how things are right now. So let's make the most of it. But as soon as the altcoins we're investing in reach not, we're not talking about all-time highs would reach target prices, meaning prices where our returns are already quite juicy or attractive. And we're not asking them to hit new all-time highs. We're just asking them to get close, or simply, well, to reach halfway. In some cases, we're going to settle our altcoins. All our altcoins are going to be sold, they're going to be out of the market. That's basically our plan, but it's true that you have to take advantage of it. I mean, right now the opportunity is there, and I'm giving you, well, a completely free signal. And obviously this is not investment advice, nor is it any kind of recommendation or anything like that. I'm simply telling you what I'm going to do. I'm already positioned, meaning my longs are already open in Ethereum, as well as in Cardano, in Polkadot, in Polygon, in Algorand, in Rose, in Avalanche. All my longs are already open. It's true that some of them have been open for much longer and are already generating profits, and I still have them open. For example, in Ripple, we have a long position that has given us a huge return and is still open. In other words, these are longs that are still working, and we have no intention of closing them yet. But in the other coins I just mentioned, Ethereum, Cardano, Polkadot, Polygon, Algorand, Rose, Avalanche, especially these coins, all our longs are already open. All our longs are positioned. just waiting for the market to start the alt season. As soon as the alt season begins, well, it's just a matter of starting to take profits. Just so you get an idea, for us to get liquidated, these coins would have to drop to extremely, extremely low prices, folks. We're talking about, for example, in the case of Ethereum, the longs we have open are at a very low price. They're open at a price of a little over $1,000. In other words, for us to get liquidated, Ethereum would have to drop to around $700 or so, something like that, which is pretty unlikely. With Cardano, right now, we would need it to drop since we have longs that have been open for a much longer time, which we open at 25 cents. So just imagine for us to get liquidated, that would be crazy. But for the most recent longs we've opened, Cardano would have to drop to 25 cents for us to get liquidated. In other words, we have longs in Cardano open at 25 cents and other longs open at 50 cents. So just imagine the margin we have ahead of us and how much lower the risk of loss is. The one we have open at 25 cents would have to drop to 12 cents, and the one at 50 cents would have to go down to 25 cents, which is quite unlikely. As for the Polkadot positions, we have them open at just over $3. That is, we're talking about Polkadot having to fall to $1.09 or $1.08 for us to get liquidated. For Polygon, we have it open at around 17 cents, something like that. Then in Rose, we have it open for about 2 cents and something. And in Avalanche, we have it open, I don't remember if it was $17 or something. So really, we have our longs very well positioned, very well covered with liquidity, so that if there's a pullback, we don't get liquidated. And obviously, our profit in this case, if all of this starts to go up, is much greater than our loss. So with good coverage, a good strategy, and a solid plan, we can allow ourselves to do what I've shown you here many times. Open longs and forget about them. Wait a month, 2 months, 3, however long it takes. You've seen that we've opened longs here on the channel that have lasted a year and 10 months, and we've been successful. And we didn't mind waiting a year and 10 months, right? In the end, what people lack is patience. It's like Warren Buffett says, right? The money of the impatient ends up in the hands of the patient. In the end, I've always been known here on the channel for being someone patient, someone who waits, someone who thinks long term. And in the end, the results come because you know how to act, right? You know how to keep a cool head in these kinds of situations. And here we have opportunities that many of you can take advantage of. Remember, for those who don't understand or who need a bit more help, a signal, that is a breakout, if it breaks through 2,700, 2,900, that's a breakout. Then the rest of the altcoins should start to rise. That is up to 4,000. As long as it's in the range up to 4,000, we have room for growth. After that, it might keep going up or not, we'll see. But up to 4,000, we have that margin for growth, where at the very least, the rest of the altcoins should reach the prices they've already hit this year. In other words, we're not asking for new prices. We're not asking for anything new, nothing new. We're asking for the altcoins to reach the prices they've already hit this year, so we can make good profits with the trades we have open, or with the ones many of you might open now. If you want a bit more free information about all of this, about how futures trading works, about how the crypto world has evolved, bots, indicators, trading view, leave classes with a professional trader every day. I always tell you, join Ohana Trading Club VIP, a free trading club for all of you, where a professional trader is with you every day, sharing his analysis, sharing his free signals, sharing his live classes where you can connect and have a live class with him. All of it is free for you. The only thing you have to do is register on BitGet, our trusted site, which is free to sign up for, using the link you have in the video description. You get a 10% discount on the fees every time you trade, so you'll even save on commissions by using that link. You also have trading bonuses where you get more than $8,000 in trading bonuses, which is money the exchange gives you to use for trading and to operate. You can withdraw that money the exchange gives you, but the profit you make with that money you can withdraw. So it's easy for you. You can literally start with free money. And then from there, you can start practicing. You can go and test out how the market is and really get going. In the end, the opportunities are there for everyone. And whoever knows how to seize them and make the most of them will be the one who, when this cycle ends, will say, hey, I fill my pockets and now I can start doing other things more calmly, right? That's what I always say. The world of cryptocurrencies is a vehicle to achieve something greater. It's a vehicle that allows you to start your own business. It's a vehicle that allows you to buy your own house. It's a vehicle that allows you to invest in real estate, build wealth, and live off rental income. It's a vehicle that lets you move up to the next level, right? In other words, it's a vehicle that, well, has a lot of volatility. It's a vehicle that's quite risky if you don't know how to use it properly with a clear head, but it is a vehicle that nowadays can give you, let's say, a turbo boost to move up to the next level, right? Financially, to go from the level you're at now to a higher level and be able to use that money to change your life and your family's life, right? Which in the end is what interests all of us. So try to educate yourself to learn, because in the end, as I always say, knowledge doesn't take up space. In the end, all the knowledge you can find for free, like what I can offer you, is always welcome. And then with that knowledge, use it yourselves to be able to make money from your own home and gradually start making your first steps. But above all, don't let yourselves be rushed. Don't become impatient. Don't go around like you've got a rocket up your backside, because in the end, if you rush, you could end up taking a really hard fall. The best thing is to do things sensibly, to do things calmly, step by step. But it is true that this cycle is already in its final stage. That is to say, it basically has about 6 months left from now until the end of the year, more or less. 6 or 7 months might remain. And now is the time to get moving. In other words, the sooner you start studying, the sooner you start learning, the better it will be for all of you. But this is just a bit of my perspective. That is, I really believe that in these coming months, we will see Bitcoin at $150,000. I was going to say euros, but well, dollars. I really think that we are going to see new all-time highs in the stock market. In fact, the S&P 500 is practically already at 6,000 points. It is already at all-time highs again. And In other words, the correction we experienced has pretty much been forgotten. Gold is also at all-time highs and is going to keep rising. And really, the market's growth potential is still quite significant. In other words, there is still room for growth, and all of this is reflected, copied, and multiplied in Bitcoin and the rest of the cryptocurrencies, but with even greater multipliers. That is, a 1% increase in the SP 500 could mean a 10% increase in Bitcoin, and it could be a 100% increase in an altcoin. So try to get your act together, learn, take advantage, and make the most of all this, because I think a very good period is coming for cryptocurrencies. I believe that we can close out the year 2025 with a gold medal, with a golden finish, and in 2026 to be able to use it to invest, to do other things, and to look at that coming crypto winter from a broader position of security. And then once we've seen that the crypto winter has passed, we'll buy again at lower prices, we'll buy cheap Bitcoin again, we'll open longs at the crypto winter lows, and we'll get back to doing things, right? Because in the end, cycles don't repeat themselves exactly, but they do tend to rhyme quite a lot. So for now, as long as the crypto world is still growing and we still have room, let's keep pushing forward with this and keep learning. From here, I'm simply sharing my opinion with you, as you already know. I'm sharing what I believe, what I think, based on my experience of more than 11 years in the world of cryptocurrencies. And from here, it's up to you to draw your own conclusions, to analyze a bit whether you think what I'm saying makes sense or not. And from there, you can start taking your own first steps. But above all, if you're interested in the crypto world, study, because honestly, it's worth it. This is a sector where you can truly develop a skill that could guarantee you a future down the line, and above all, help you get your head straight. Because in the end, maybe during the first month or even the first year, it might be a sea of doubts. You might be a very indecisive person or someone whose emotions are right on the surface, but with time, you'll toughen up. With time, you'll stop being afraid. With time, you'll have the guts. And eventually, you won't have any kind of feelings or emotions in the market. That is, you won't care whether the market goes up or down. You won't get excited when Bitcoin hits all-time highs, and you also won't get upset when Bitcoin crashes or corrects. You'll simply take advantage of opportunities both in good times and bad, and you'll make money with a clear goal, which is what we should all have, which is to secure our own financial stability and that of our family. Because in the end, we're living in tough times. I still believe that things are going to get even worse for the world in general, and that gap that currently exists between the rich and the poor is getting wider and wider, and those on the poor side, so to speak, are starting to have an even harder time. In other words, everything seems more and more expensive, much more difficult. That label of social slave is becoming more and more widespread among people. And honestly, it's a shame. It's a real shame for everyone in general that we're living through this kind of situation. But even so, as unfortunate as it is, it's our responsibility to try to get out of it. It's our responsibility, if we don't like that life, to try to find ways out so we can keep growing and move to the other side, right? Because in the end, like I said, if we all focus on doing good for ourselves and our own families, our close ones, in the end, the sum of everyone doing good for themselves and their loved ones, would create a group, would create a much better society in every sense. But unfortunately, people neither eat nor let others eat. That's to say, they've got their snouts stuck in other people's nests while their own rear ends are in theirs. And that's something that really doesn't let you grow or prosper. In other words, listen to me. Focus on yourself. Focus on your family. Focus on improving your skills, your knowledge, your financial stability, your character, your way of being to create the best version of yourself. And once you create your best version, then, well, the good things will start to come. In the end, I'm speaking to you here from experience. Many of you have seen me here on the channel grow and evolve. I mean, in the end, the changes have, obviously, they've been noticeable here, the ones I've shared here with all of you. But it all comes down to perseverance, consistency, attitude, and having the guts, not letting anything control you. In the end, keep in mind that as you grow, problems will start to appear, obstacles will come up, hyenas will show up, vultures will appear, bad people will come along who will try to bring you down, who will try to throw you off track. You have to stand your ground. In other words, I am the strongest, and no one is going to push me off my path. And whoever stands in my way, I will eliminate them, I will crush them, I will destroy them. But I have a goal, I'm heading there, and nothing and no one is going to stop me. And that's exactly how all of you should act, with a pair of balls or a pair of ovaries if you're women, and always moving forward. With a goal, if you don't do it for yourself, do it for your loved ones. And if you don't have loved ones, if no one cares about you, then do it for your dog. But above all, focus on moving forward, because life is getting harder and harder, society is getting tougher, more complicated, and no one is going to come and save you. Neither Pedro Sanchez, nor any president of your country, nor anyone else is going to come save you, hold your hand, give you help, or give you anything. If you don't do it, no one will. So wake up, grow, improve, become the best version of yourself, and take on the world. With that, I'll say goodbye. I hope you enjoyed the video. If so, I'd appreciate it if you give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Lately, it's true that the channel, over this past year, well, since I haven't been as active and all that, the algorithm kind of has us switched off. I don't understand how, with more than 100,000 subscribers on this channel, every time I upload a video, the notification only reaches a very few of you actually get the notification. So if you want to stay up to date, make sure to subscribe and turn on the bell with all notifications, because otherwise YouTube won't let you know. That is, YouTube kind of has us, well, forgotten, so to speak. When in reality, I'm seeing YouTube channels in the crypto world that really aren't contributing anything and that are uploading all day long junk content, so to speak. And they're going viral and growing a lot. But really, quality content in the end is the kind you can actually put into practice. And that generates real results for you. Not what you might see out there from people who can who can tell you things, but in reality what they say doesn't add anything, or you can't actually apply what they say. In the end, what I talk about here is something that any of you can do. It's not something where I say, no, I'm exclusive, only I can do this, and I'm here to share something that only I can do, but none of you can, right? Because then I wouldn't be contributing anything. What I'm here to tell you are things that any of you watching this video can apply in your own life, can use, and can benefit from. Just like I do it, any of you can do it as well. So with that, I'll say goodbye, sending you all a big hug, and see you next time.